Good afternoon to those of you here in the room in Denver and those of you joining us virtually. My name is Michael Powell from Michigan Department of Education, and I'm a NASPA member. Just want to welcome you to increase engagement, academic performance, social skills, well-being, and more with gaming. To focus on improvement, educators must identify strategies that enhance multiple aspects of student learning and well-being simultaneously. Scholastic gaming is such a strategy. Implementing an after-school exports program or integrating gaming concepts into core curriculum has been shown to increase attendance, engagement, school culture, and academic performance, social skills, emotional wellness, and self-esteem. This is particularly effective for students who have been historically neglected or overlooked in modern education trends. Scholastic gaming can be transformative for all students. Implementing this strategy effectively offers a greater return on investments than many other educational initiatives. So today, you'll learn from the presenters how to implement it with your students. A few quick reminders before we get started. In the conference app, I want to point out that you can access the presentation under Documents and Links section. Also, please complete your evaluation for this session in the app, especially for any attendance record keeping that you might need. Now, do we have any distinguished schools in the room or virtually? Congratulations to you and in your school, in your district, and thank you for joining us. Now, I will turn the floor over to Heidi Albin. Let's give Ms. Albin a big Denver welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, I want to first of all just congratulate each of you for making it to the end of the day of a very long day full of sessions, and you guys are here at the last one. When they put me at the last one, I was like, not a single soul is going to show up because they're going to be wanting to go to dinner. So I brought candy to thank you guys. A little side note, there's a lot more candy at the front tables. That was by design. So just if you want to move up. And also, when you're doing the session evaluation, please remember that I brought you chocolate. All right, so what I want to talk to you about today is esports in schools. And I think the best place for me to start is, well, to introduce myself. He introduced me on the session notes. If you need to know more information about me, it's here. You don't care. All right, let's go forward. So I think the best place for me to start is to tell you where this started for me. I was at an alternative high school as a teacher. I was the science teacher there. And the whole idea of esports in schools started at this little teeny tiny school. We had 60 students. We only had 8 staff members. There we are, very professional bunch. And this school was amazing because we were the dropout prevention program. And so our district kind of, this is a little tongue-in-cheek, but our district kind of said in a way like, hey, if you can keep them in school, innovate, do what you want to do. And so we didn't have a lot of the red tape that sometimes you might have in some larger schools. And this made it to where we could be a little experimental ground to find things that worked for our students. And one thing that our principal Christy Custer right there, she was really great about telling the staff that, hey, what you're interested in, what you're passionate about is something that your students may be passionate about. And so she encouraged us to have passion projects. My passion projects were all outdoor based. I'll show you that in a second. But Dr. Mike Russell, right there, that guy that we're all pointing at, he came to Christy Custer one day after she asked him to present his passion project. And this was when he was the first year teacher there. And so he looks at this woman who has no interest in video games and has her only knowledge of video games is that her son plays too many video games and that bothers her. And she said, well, what's your passion project? And he said, well, I really think bringing esports into school will be a good idea. And she said, great, let's do it. If that's what you're passionate about, let's do it. So he brought esports into school, and at the time I was the science teacher, and my mission in life was to get kids away from screens and get them outside. It still is. I still believe kids are on screens too much, and I still believe they need to be outside a whole lot more, okay? That hasn't changed. And we were into all the things outside. We had a garden, we went canoeing, we went fishing, we attempted to go camping. As you can see from the picture, it didn't always go super well. We had a classroom pet chicken that we trained to do tricks because we would hatch chicks in the classroom. I mean, it was all about being outside. And so when Mike said that he was going to implement esports into the school, I was supportive, but I wasn't really a believer. I was like, well, okay, there'll be some kids who aren't really involved in things, and they'll be involved, and cool. All right, I could not believe the impact that it made on our students. At that point, I had been trying for 8 years to get our student engagement up by taking them outside. And it worked really well for a good proportion of students, but it just wasn't reaching the whole student body. But when Mike introduced esports at our school, it was a culture shift. We didn't have a school mascot until we had an esports team, and our esports team said, we need a school mascot because we need jerseys. The school pride that we had just rocketed. We had students who were disengaged, who were, like I say, we were the dropout prevention program, so they were, nearing dropout, suddenly re-engage. One of the students pictured up there was actually nonverbal due to some trauma. This student just would not speak due to trauma that he had experienced. He became the team leader, shouting commands, enthusiastically leading his teammates, because suddenly he had something that he believed in, that he connected with, and it was powerful. And so I asked myself, well, why did this happen? How could this have been so powerful when it's just video games? Well, it's because it wasn't just video games, right? We had disengaged students who were now suddenly engaged. And I think part of the reason why this works is there's no locker rooms, there's no boys team versus girls team, there's healthy competition in a learning environment. Competition is, in a healthy way, is good for students, they like it, right? There's connection with a caring adult, and what I think is most powerful about it is students develop this logic model. This is like this psychological model that they develop, right? I'm good at video games. Video games are in school. Therefore, I'm good at school. I like video games. Video games are in school. Therefore, I like school. Do you see how powerful that can be to a disengaged population that feels like nothing at school matters to them, that no one at school can connect to what they care about? It's extremely impactful. And so throughout this session, what I'm going to do is I want to give you guys some evidence and some hard facts that you can take back to your stakeholders to say, this is why this will work. This is why we should do this. Because I would imagine there's some of you in this room who you're already, some of you in here, you're not sure about all this. And that's why you're in this session, is because you're like, this sounds bonkers. I'm gonna come listen to this and pick it apart. Great. Right? But then there's some of you in this room who are like, I know all this, I know this can happen for our school, but I just can't get stakeholders to buy in. The parents aren't for it, or the school board isn't for it, right? So what I want to do today is I want to be able to give you plenty of information that you can take back to show that this is a research-backed instructional strategy, not just video games in school, to empower you to have the information you need to implement this into your school and be able to have an answer for all of the naysayers. All right, so moving on. What I want you to do is we're gonna table talk. All right, if you're at a table and there's no one else at the table, could you yell across to another table or move to another table? But I want you guys to discuss really quick, and I promise I'm not going to have you do a bunch of like gimmicky games or interactive activities, just a few discussion questions. And the first question I want you to answer is, what words come to mind when you hear esports in school? Or maybe the way I should ask this question is, what words tend to come to most people's minds when they hear esports in school? So I'll give you just a second to talk about that, please. And then if you share out your answer, I'll give you candy. Just kidding, candy's already there. You get it anyway. Has that been long enough? I never know how long it takes more time. You guys are still talking. Okay, let's share out. Who's going to be brave and share out and tell me what are words that come to mind when you think of esports in schools? Here we go. All right, who? Thank you, yes.
So one of the things that our group kind of came to the conclusion on was a sense of inclusion. A lot of times in schools, football, basketball, physical sports are celebrated.
Yeah.
Sports, students who are physically or athletically gifted still have that opportunity to feel connected to the school. So that was kind of one of the senses that I was taking.
Wonderful. So that's a positive thing. Good, good, good. Who else? I'm going to draw your names and call on a student.
Primarily high school. When I first think of it, it was primarily secondary.
Okay? All right. Yeah, and that is typically where we usually see it. We are implementing it in elementary school, but you're correct. That is typically where we see it. Who else? Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. And there is a massive problem with especially young boys who used to be outside and doing physical things, and they're sitting at home in their basement alone, and it's very bad, and it is a big problem. And I think the best way to address that is to teach them those dangers at school, is to sit those boys down at school and say, hey, video games are great fun, but let's talk about screen time. Let's talk about the dangers of interacting with people online who you don't know. Let's talk about toxic interactions among game players online. Let's talk about video game addiction. That's why it's important to bring this into schools, because you're absolutely right. And that's actually one of the reasons why I'm passionate about this, is because you remember the pictures where I'm all about getting kids outside. I've found that if I, as a science teacher who am all about getting kids outside, talk to the gaming students about being outside, they're like, yeah, well, you're a hiker and you're blah, 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 and we don't relate to you. But when I'm the gaming teacher and I talk to them about that, and I talk to them about how I teach the lesson on opportunity cost that happens when you spend more time playing video games than with your family or finding a job, that's impactful. And so I'm really glad you bring that up, and we're going to talk a little bit about how that makes it so important that you actually implement this into curriculum during the school day so that you can talk about that and not have it just be an encouragement to play more video games. All right, sorry, I got on a little soapbox there because I'm passionate about that too. Anyone else? Mm-hmm. You don't have them play shooting games in school. Yeah. Right. I think communication is a really big part of it, and we'll talk a little bit later in here where if you can implement this in an academic strategy first, use it as an instructional strategy, and show those parents how suddenly their kids care about school because that speech class that they didn't want to take, now we're calling it streaming, and we're letting them talk about their video games, and they're learning about all of those speech skills, and they don't realize they're learning speech skills because they think they're just talking about their video games. That's where you start to show the parents, is when they see the results. Okay, so let's move forward and let's talk about why esports works. And this first part, I've mentioned curriculum a couple times, but this first part, I'm trying to focus just on esports in general, whether that be during school or after school. Just bringing esports into your school district in whatever way works for you, okay? So let's take a look at some of these current trends. It's pretty dismal. After 2020, it's pretty dismal. How many of you feel like it's a little dismal? Okay, good. I'm glad many of you are more optimistic than I am, because I feel like it's pretty dismal. And what we're seeing is attendance has taken such a huge hit. How many of you are in districts where attendance is a little bit more of an issue than it was pre-pandemic? Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Did you know that national averages is about 1 in 5 students, over 1 in 5 students is not just absent too much, chronically absent. Chronic absenteeism means that they are absent 10% of the school days or more. In some states, it's up to a quarter of the students, 1 in 4. How many of you are seeing that in your classrooms? I saw that. It was like, holy cow, there's crickets in here. I should have all of these, and you're just not seeing students, right? Engagement, of course, dropped off massively during the pandemic, and it's making a comeback, right? And hopefully you guys are seeing that in your school, but what we're finding is that this comeback of engagement is not being felt equally among all populations. There are specific populations that are actually doing worse in engagement than they were pre-pandemic. Some of the populations that are struggling to come back are low socioeconomic background students, students of minorities, LGBTQ+ and gender diverse students, and sophomores. Sophomores hate sophomores. It's a sophomore slump, right? And so this is not really great, okay? Belonging. Fewer than half of all students feel that they belong. That's a national average. Fewer than half feel like they belong at school. Why do you think that is? Could it be because they don't care about Shakespeare? Sorry, I'm not going to name any. It's because they don't care about some of the things that some of us adults care about, maybe, right? And so they don't feel like they belong. And then behavioral incidences. Do I even need to say any of this? I mean, I remember right after the pandemic, I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? These kids are so much worse than they were before the pandemic, right? And we're seeing that around the nation. And so this is pretty dismal, right? But there are solutions. And I'm glad to hear that there's some nationally recognized schools in here, because you guys are finding the solutions. And that's what we did at our little alternative high school, is we found a solution that worked. And so when we implemented instructional esports, so we implemented it during the day and after school, we saw an increase in engagement, peer interaction, classroom participation, students having fun at school. This clicker is really touchy. There we go. All right. Students actually having fun at school. When was the last time you saw that in high school students? Some of you, right? Belonging. 90% of the students who participated in the esports program had never been involved in an extracurricular activity before. I need some gasp. Someone give me a good gasp. Thank you. Okay. Behavior. Decreased toxicity. 100% of the students said that they experienced decreased toxicity and increased anger management skills. And then attendance. This is crazy. Actually, this is where you should give me the good gasp. At our alternative high school, we put this gaming class at first hour, and we had 96% attendance rate at an alternative high school in the first hour class. They didn't want to miss it. It blew my mind. It was insane. It didn't matter how many times I took the kids fishing and how many times I said, well, if you don't show up, you can't go on the camping trip. I never saw results like this. So we saw this happen in our school, and other schools, we started sharing our curriculum with other schools. And when other schools started implementing this, they were seeing a lot of changes too. One of my favorite examples is that this school here, this was a school in Texas, they actually had so many students come out for their esports team that they were able to make an all-girls team. You know, and we've always been trying to get girls more involved in STEM, and this was one way to do that. And so it's wonderful for boys and it's wonderful for girls. Turn my page, one moment, sorry. So why are esports a good fit for school? Here's some things that you can tell your stakeholders. First of all, competition drives engagement. We've gotten away from competition because we're scared of kids feeling bad. Competition in the correct way is healthy for students. Thank you so much. Okay, and then esports can be used during the school day to engage students in academic content. So remember I talked about the speech class that kids, you know, at our school, kids were always trying to skip speech class. But once we made it esports themed and we called it streaming, all of them wanted to be in it because all of them were going to grow up to be what? YouTube influencers, right? And then the belonging, let's see, complete learn students. All right. And then belonging. Students need a why to come to school, right? For some people, we understand this with adults. Not very many adults would show up to their jobs if they didn't get paid. Now, teachers would, educators would, I know that. But there's a why for coming to most jobs, and that's when we get paid, right? What's the why for a lot of students? I mean, if they don't have any interest in it. Okay, and so again, it's that whole concept of I like video games are at school, I like school, and that causes this previously disengaged population to become engaged and to connect with a caring adult. So let's do some more table talk here. Which students in your building would benefit most from an esports-based approach, and why? All right. If I could have a few people share out. Love to hear your thoughts. Go back here. Which students in your building would benefit most from an esports-based approach? Yes.
I have a student that is mostly nonverbal.
Yes. Yes. Who else? And boys are struggling. Boys are struggling.
Where we say students are ineligible to play like a statewide sports, so that would give them a chance to, be eligible for something, be part of a game club. Anybody that's not at risk, students with behavior problems, give them a reason to, want to do something right, or academic problems, give them a reason to want to school.
Yeah. Awesome. We saw students that were in different schools call it different things, and I always worry that I'm going to call it the wrong thing, but our students who were in some of the special needs programs. This was very good for them because they could participate with other students on the same level. All right. So again, we're thinking of esports as an instructional strategy, not as extracurricular fluff. And when schools connect to student identity and interest, students show up literally and emotionally. Let's take a look at esports as an instructional strategy. Until now, we've been focusing mostly on the powerful benefits of just esports in general, whether it's after school, during school, competitive, just a game club, whatever it is. So we've been looking at that more in general, but now I want to look at what happens when your school moves beyond just kind of an informal implementation to actually making it an instructional strategy and incorporating esports-based curriculum into the school day. So the curriculum that our school used, actually Mike and Christy wrote. There was no esports curriculum. This was back in 2016, nothing like that existed that we could find. And also our students, many of them couldn't participate after school because they had families that they had to support, they had their own kids, or they had to go to a job. And so we needed to put this during the school day. So Mike and Christy, the principal and the social studies teacher, they wrote this curriculum that used esports as kind of a theme and kind of a hook for students, and then taught life skills and career skills and social emotional wellness and mental health, right? Taught all the things that is hard to teach students, and used esports as the way, as the hook for doing it, right? And it worked so well that they started sharing it with other schools. And those schools, it worked so well that they said, well, let's put it online for people to download for free, right? Because they're teachers and they want other schools to have this. Well, it got picked up by a little company called Microsoft, downloaded over 400,000 times in 40 different countries, right? Now, y'all are educators in here. How much money did Mike and Christy make on that? Zero, right? Because that's not what it's about. But at that point, they realized, okay, there's a need for this. There's a need, and this is a strategy that not only works at our school, it's a strategy that works with kids in general. And so we started writing more curriculum, and they let me join on, and I started writing curriculum with them, and we learned how to use this. We're not teaching video games. We're teaching, for example, computer applications. Where's the computer applications book? I think it's over there. Yep. Computer applications. How many of you remember your computer applications course in high school or middle school? I remember mine. It was, here's a spreadsheet that has absolutely nothing to do with your life and has nothing to do with anything you care about. Copy this spreadsheet into this program and then show me that you learned how to do it. Boring, right? So we found out that to get these kids to learn computer applications, well, we have them learn how to make an esports adjacent company, and we bring in entrepreneurship in with it, and they're making an esports adjacent company, and they're learning about the esports industry, which all of that information equates to industries in general. So they're learning career skills, right? So we stumbled upon this thing that you can equate esports to so many different avenues to engage students in so many different topics. So schools that started using this started seeing the results. Here's a few. The first year one data, there were 25 students enrolled. There were only 15 computers. And so they were just kind of shoestring budget doing this. By the end of the year, there were 100 students on the wait list because they wanted to be in so badly. Another high school here in Connecticut, a quarter of the student body wanted to take gaming concepts. Right, that's a huge portion. Another school here in Kansas, the pilot year they had 160 students. It kind of caught on. The next year, 580. The next year, 1,400, and the year after that, over 2,000 students with students on the waiting list. Because when you implement this in school, it's like students are like, oh my gosh, there's something I care about, and they want to be involved. And they don't care that you're teaching them about speech. They just are having fun learning about stuff that they're interested in.
Hello there, gamers and mental health enthusiasts. Today, we're diving into a groundbreaking study that explores the intersection of scholarly gaming and mental health education and how it can impact the self-esteem of adolescents. Picture this, a world where scholarly gaming isn't just about mastering technology-based career skills or dominating the world of video game business. No, it's a world where gaming becomes a gateway to improving mental health. 3 visionary educators and a school-based health intervention expert came together to create a curriculum that aligns with academic guidelines from the International Society for Technology Education. This curriculum spans 40 lessons, delivered over 14 weeks with a minimum of 120 minutes per week. But here's the twist. 83 schools were invited to participate, but they were divided into 2 groups, those with mental health moments and those without. The non-mental health moment group got the scholarly gaming curriculum alone, while the mental health moment group got an extra layer of education. Mental health moments were embedded into 27 lessons, integrating concepts from the PERMA framework and the collaborative academic, social, and emotional learning standards, otherwise known as CASEL. Now, let's meet our players. 471 participants from both groups, with almost 75% in high school, many experiencing scholarly gaming for the first time. A majority were male, and the racial diversity was broad. At the start, the average self-esteem score was 17.9, with 22.1% reporting low self-esteem. But hold on, the game's just beginning. As the study progressed, it revealed some fascinating results. While 57.7% of participants with low self-esteem at the beginning reported average self-esteem post-intervention, the mental health moments group stole the spotlight. Self-esteem scores improved by 8.3% in the mental health moments group, compared to no change in the non-mental health moments group. How's that for a power-up? Some students even shifted from abnormally low self-esteem scores to normal ranges. The message is loud and clear. Educators, healthcare providers, and adolescent advocates pay attention. Non-traditional educational instructions, like scholarly gaming, combined with mental health moments, can significantly improve students' well-being. And there you have it, a journey through the power of scholarly gaming and mental health moments.
Okay, let's see if I can, good. All right, so my biggest passion in this is what we call mental health moments. And here's the background to it. When we were teaching at the alternative high school, we had a lot of really hurting kids. I mean, they had so many emotional wounds and trauma, and on top of that, many of them had not had the kind of instruction that we sometimes assume kids get at home for how to manage their emotions or manage themselves. And so we knew that these kids really, really needed instruction. They needed to learn how to be able to have an argument and disagree with someone without punching them in the face, or how to be upset but not, take it out on other people, or how to recognize when people are trying to take advantage of them, right? But we found out pretty quickly that you can't get a room full of high schoolers and sit them down and say, okay, kids, today we're going to learn about responsibility. We would get flipped off if we tried that, right? And so what we found out is that we needed to kind of ninja these life skills that they thought sounded cheesy and corny. We needed to ninja it in so that the students were learning it without realizing they were learning it. So we would talk about, like, hey, trolls and griefers in video games and online video games. How do you deal with trolls and griefers? And equate that to, like, who are people in your life that are kind of trying to negatively affect you all the time, and how do you deal with them? And we'd have these amazing discussions that the students were super into, and then they'd be like, oh, relates to life in general. And it made this a giant difference. And so we believe in this so much, so we put this into each and every one of our courses. Because if you're gonna bring video game based learning into school, not video game based, video game themed learning into schools, use it to the widest extent of its ability to teach life skills and mental health and social skills and wellness, right? And it works so well, and we knew it worked so well, so we had a study done. That's what the little video was about, and it showed that over a semester-long
Hello
study.
there, Gabe.
Oh, there we go. They used the Rosenberg self-esteem scale, if you're familiar with that, and over a semester-long scale, 62% of students experienced a notable rise in self-esteem. Imagine if 62% of the students in your school had a notable rise in self-esteem. What would that do for culture, or attendance, or behavioral issues? This matters. This makes a really big difference. And you'll see that it had even higher effects on specific marginalized populations. The other thing that we put in this curriculum is practical life skills. Let's talk about digital citizenship. Very easy to teach digital citizenship when you're talking about esports. But healthy diet. The lessons talk about how to eat healthy and how to have good exercise routine. We talk about gaming addiction and all of these things that we need to teach students, but there's not really a specific place or time in school to teach these. Then we also teach career connections. This is really cool because I saw students who had no plans whatsoever to go to college or to go to a trade school or to really do anything other than sit in their basement. I had a student tell me once, all I'm gonna do, I don't need to graduate high school, because all I'm gonna do is work at this fast food restaurant the rest of my life as the low man on the totem pole and that particular setting, and go home and play video games. And I said, did you know that your interest in video games could lead you to be could be a shoutcaster or a digital content creator for video game companies, right? And suddenly the student had hope and was like, well, maybe I should go to college to learn about the laws in video game, and I could be a video game esports attorney, right? And so this is giving kids hope when they see that there's so many career connections, because the skills that you learn in speech class that when you're talking about a video game you like are the same skills that I'm using right now. We also have this curriculum standards aligned. This is important because it needs to teach curriculum. For example, we have a course called shoutcasting. Does anyone know what shoutcasting is? Okay, shoutcasting is like sports broadcasting for esports tournaments, which to me, as a middle-aged woman, I'm like, what? Right? But kids love this. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and if you watch esports tournaments, there's like thousands of participants watching, not only in person, but online as well. Well, that's journalism broadcasting, right? And I noticed when I was teaching that students were kind of losing interest in journalism broadcasting because they were thinking of it's the school newsletter or the yearbook, or it's learning how to write newspaper articles, and they just weren't interested. But when you say shoutcasting, when you call it shoutcasting, all of a sudden they're re-engaged and they're interested and they're still learning the state-aligned and the national-aligned standards for journalism and broadcasting, but it's something that they're interested in. And not only is this aligned to standards for national-based standards, it's aligned to standards in every single state. So whatever state you're from, we have the standards crosswalk to show what our courses are aligned to, and the course codes. So you don't have to go to your school board or whatever powers that be that you would talk to about this and say, I want to teach a video game class. You say, I want to teach a digital media class, and I want to use this gaming concepts interactive curricula or interactive media curriculum to teach it, because it lines up to the standards for that class. We did this, one, because it's important, but two, because it makes it very easy to implement this into schools where maybe there's not a whole lot of buy-in. And then finally, our courses include what's called purposeful play. And purposeful play is where students actually get to play video games during the school day. Now, they're not spending the whole entire class day doing this, and they're not necessarily doing this every day. But why do we have students play? Why do we think it's okay for students to use school time to play an instrument in band? Because there's a lot of benefits to that, right? I mean, when that student's playing that trumpet during band, even if they're not going to grow up to be a professional trumpet player, they're learning a ton of skills about teamwork and taking direction and reading music, right? And the same thing with supervised, structured gameplay. It can be used to teach these skills as well. So, let's talk. What could using esports-based curriculum as an instructional strategy look like in your school or your classroom? So think beyond just an after-school esports club. Think beyond just an esports team. Think about this in the school day, during the school day. How could you use this to engage students who are there that you're needing to get into seats during the school day? So go ahead and talk a little bit. Isn't it amazing? Are y'all let's have some talking out here. What could using esports-based curriculum as an instructional strategy look like in your school or classroom? How could you use this to engage kids? How could you implement this in your school day? Anybody. And if no one has a super great idea that you're wanting to share out, That's okay because I have so many ideas that I can share with you. But I don't want to get too into that because the purpose of this, while we have curriculum, and I really hope you check out our curriculum because as you've seen, this curriculum isn't just like, oh, we're trying to make money. This is, we saw this change lives of our students and I want it to work for your students too. This session is about helping you guys get the information you need to be able to implement this in your schools the way you want to, in whatever way works best for your school, whether that's curriculum or not. But check out the curriculum because it's amazing. All right, so what I want to talk about now is some evidence. And I'm going to show you some exciting new evidence from a study that's going to come out in the next few weeks that was done on our curriculum that you can take back to stakeholders who might need convincing. But before I show you the results, I want to show you the logic model to this. So we've always believed, because we've seen esports-based education be an engagement engine. This little thing is so, it wants to go forward without me. And so what we know is that many students who are avid gamers, and a lot of students are avid gamers, feel isolated or kind of a lack of that connects them to the school building. So by bringing gaming into the light of the classroom through the gaming concepts curriculum and competitive esports, we create a sense of belonging for those students. This sense of belonging then is going to build connection and lead to increased motivation, which results in better attendance and better behavior. And it turns school from a place they have to go to a place that they want to go to. So that all makes a ton of sense to me, and if teachers have seen this, if educators have seen this, they're like, yeah, that's exactly how it works. But how do you prove to parents who are like, what the heck, you're gonna have my kids play video games during the school day? How do you prove that logic model to them? Well, you hire Dr. Robert Marzano. How many of you know you get in contact with Dr. Robert Marzano. How many of you know of Marzano? Okay, yeah, in textbooks, like when I was going through teaching college, right? Dr. Marzano was in all of the textbooks. He's huge, right? Massive name and massive researcher in education, and his research partner, Dr. Anthony Magana, is also very well known in education. These two guys are just powerhouses of knowledge and evidence-based instructional strategies and rigor, right? And I know Sonny, Dr. Anthony Magana, and he was like, this is really cool what you guys are doing. I think my friend Bob would be interested in that. I'm like, Bob? And he's like, oh yeah, Dr. Robert Marzano. I call him Bob. And I was like, I want to call him Bob. And so they did a study on this. And then I got to meet Dr. Robert Marzano, and he said, call me Bob. It was like meeting a famous person. It was really exciting. So here are some of the results from some preliminary results. The study is coming out, is going to be published in a couple of weeks, okay? And so these are the results that I can share with you so far, because I want to be really careful that I don't, I want to be very, these results are so staggering that I don't want there to be any way for people to be like, I want you to be able to double check what I'm saying. So I'm going to look at my notes a little bit more on this because I want to make sure I say everything correctly. The setup. So Dr. Magana and Dr. Marzano, they conducted an analysis of a 5-year attendance study and behavior incidences from a large school district. And the school district was using gaming concepts curriculum and esports, competitive esports. And their findings help us to address the question, does bringing a student's passion for gaming into the school building through a structured curriculum and competitive teams increase their sense of belonging and motivation, ultimately leading to better school outcomes, right? So what they did is they did a study of 5 years worth, a 5-year longitudinal study, providing a stable look at trends. So this wasn't a 1-year snapshot, this was a stable look at trends over 5 years. And the participants was thousands of students in this school district, and they compared the control group, which was students with no gaming involvement, to 3 experimental groups. First experimental group was a group of students who was just involved in like competitive esports, like an after-school esports team. The second group was students who were involved in gaming concepts curriculum during the school day. And the third group was the students who were involved in both, okay? And the methodology, to make sure that the data was accurate, they used a multi-level modeling. If you're a statistics person, you'll appreciate that, to see if this engagement engine actually moved the needle on attendance and behavior. Here's the exciting results. Let's look at attendance first. As you can see on the chart, just being in an esports team, or esports in school in general, however you implement it, increases student attendance, right? So you can say, hey, school board who isn't too sure about this, do we have an issue with student attendance? Yes, because all schools pretty much have an issue with student attendance right now. Hopefully not yours, but probably, right? Well, here's how we can engage students, and here is proven data, here is data indicating that students will increase their attendance when we implement esports in school. But the most powerful discovery was that when the gaming concepts curriculum was added to this, so it wasn't just an after-school program, it was like a purposeful during the school day thing, the average attendance became an additional 7.4 days for students on average attended school, 7.4 more days. That's a week and a half. That can be for many students the difference between chronic absenteeism and not being chronic absentee, right? And think about funding. Think about funding tied to attendance. I mean, this, for school districts, and depending on how your state does it, this is money. And I know that that's not what you as educators really care about, but that's a reality, right? And so if you have unconvinced stakeholders, you can say, this helps our school get more funding and retain more funding as well. And so this data supports the claim that while the excitement of competition gets students through the door, the structured curriculum provides the deep academic and social connection that keeps them in their seats for an extra week and a half per year. And attendance is only half the story. Let's look at the behavioral logic model. We're not just letting kids play games, we're using their passion as a vehicle for transformation. So by combining the esports, just sports after school or esports club in general, with the structured gaming concepts curriculum, we actually trigger a specific psychological mechanism. We build a sense of community and belonging. And this isn't just fun, it creates real-world accountability, right? You know, you can say, hey, you need to have good attendance so that you can compete in the upcoming esports match. The preliminary evidence from the 5-year study is major cause for optimism. The data suggests that one would expect to see an increase in attendance coupled with a decrease in classroom behavioral incidences in schools that are implementing gaming concepts and esports. This study showed a significant reduction in behavior incidences. How many of you think that would be a good thing for your school if there were less behavioral incidences? Yep. All right. What's important to note is these aren't just one-year anomalies. These are trends that remained stable over a 5-year period and stayed statistically significant, even as the programs expanded to more students. And this suggests that scholastic gaming is an intentional tool for building accountability, self-regulation, and a more positive, connected schooling climate. When our most at-risk or disconnected kids become regulated, focused, and connected, it doesn't just help them, and it doesn't just help their teachers. It helps all the other students in the school as well, making a more focused school climate. All right. These study results will be available in a couple weeks. If you're interested in them, which you should be because they will be a great tool for you to use to talk to your stakeholders, be watching playversus.com for information about that. Or just email me and I'll make sure you get information about it. All right, table talk. After hearing all of this, how would you explain the benefit of scholastic esports to unconvinced stakeholders in your district? Okay, so you go to a stakeholder and they're like, I'm not on board with having kids just play video games all day long, right? What are you going to say to them? So go ahead and talk in your groups. All right, who wants to share out? Sorry to cut you guys off a little bit, but who wants to share out? We'll just take one person in the interest of time.
Starters are not going to play video games all day.
Thank you. Yes, that's one of the biggest hurdles, is to let stakeholders know that's not what this is about. This is not about teaching video games. None of the curriculum teaches kids how to play a video game. It just uses their interest to engage them in the content that we already want them to learn. Very good, very good. All right, so a few resources for you. These slides are on the presenter site, okay? I believe there should be 2 different uploads. If you are not able to click on the links in the slides, let me know, and I'll send you the links. But this will take you to our course catalog, whether you use our courses or not. That's not what this is about. This is about, here's how you can bring esports into your school in the way that works best for you, whether you use our courses or not. But I really believe in our courses, and so I would highly encourage you to take a look at this. And this is on our website, and my card is on the table. We're going to wrap up. As we wrap up, just a note, please don't take those books with you. They're just samples. They're my only copies, so please don't take those spiral-bound books with you. Just leave them on the table, and I'll pick them back up. But we only have like 3 minutes left, and I need to turn it back over to you, I think, right? Or no, okay. So I have some time for questions, but since I know it's almost 5:15, feel free to just go ahead and leave. But I'm going to stay up here to answer any questions that anyone has. Thank you so much for coming to this session at the very end of the day after you've been going all day long. I appreciate it, and I hope that this will be something that can help your students. Thank you.
Have you guys seen esports and the E-League?
I don't know if that's sports,
But
but it's
no,
great
I'm asking if you've
mind
seen it.
savvy.
But I don't know if athlete is the right word that I would
If you
go
don't break
for.
a sweat, I don't consider it a
Oh,
sport.
no, you do.
Watching people play video games isn't like watching people play football. It's like watching people play fantasy football. It is one more step removed from human activity. You understand?
It's video games. It shouldn't be on a sports network. It's video games.
But can it truly be a spectator sport?
It already is. 71 million watched it last year. They reckon it's going to, by 2017, it'll be 145 million people watching it.
One person was asking questions about
They're actually giving college scholarships for video gaming. And it's even gone to the point that now the government has acknowledged professional video gamers as athletes.
Same way you watch a football match, you can hear the crowd, everyone's cheering the team on, you make friends, these are people you talk to, you play with online. It's all about community, it's being part of something that you're incredibly passionate about.
Trying to establish vision control and forward skill. Yeah, and this arm girl who, like, I'm
Steals the Elder Dragon! He has away! That was a life! This is a 4-Drake Elder Dragon! He lives! Ambition saves the game once again!
Thank you.